question for you today is, what is your earliest sewing memory? That is what I want you to type in the comments when you join us. Your earliest sewing memory. Hi, Miriam. So my earliest sewing memory is I was about 9 years old and learning how to sew on a dinosaur. Like, not quite treadle dinosaur, but like cams to change the stitches dinosaur. Like, so it was an old machine. So I remember sewing from a book. Just I think it was the I'll Teach Myself book series. That's how I learned. So yeah, high school home ec. Lots of us who are in around the age that I am, we had home ec, and so that was awesome. So I'm really excited. I'm excited to be here today. So my name is Erin. I am an educator with Janome Canada, and so I've just virtually jumped down south of the border to visit with you today. So I don't know if you remember, last month when I was doing a live, I was doing that really pretty ruffled ribbon, and so I wanted to quickly show you what it looks like all finished up. So it's really pretty. So I hope you've had a chance to try something with using your differential to gather, which is really fun. So, okay, so today we are doing Serger ribbon. If you have never done Serger ribbon before, it's really fun. So if you have had the pleasure of working with anything that needed curved binding, so curved quilts, curved placemats, anything that you need curved binding for, you might be familiar with making continuous bias tape. So I'm going to give you a quick and dirty run through of how to make continuous bias tape. So you need to start off with a square. And so your square, this square is at 8.5 inches. So I just used my 8.5 inch square quilting ruler. And so you'll make a square and then you'll cut on this vertical line here. So I'm going to cut that real quick because it's way easier for you to see how to do it. So I'm just cutting my fabric so that then you end up with 2 triangles. Okay. So 2 triangles. So then you're going to sew them together so that you make up on the straight edges so that you make a parallelogram. Okay. Does that make sense? Parallelogram. And then, okay, so I'm going to switch the camera now so that you can see the other part. So once you have your parallelogram, you're going to draw lines that are parallel to your bias edges. So that's these edges here. And then you'll draw a 1/4 inch or whatever seam allowance you're using line here and match up your lines and then sew. Okay. So that's how you do that. And then you can either use your scissors or you can use the serger, and you can just sew on your lines that you created, and you end up with a continuous bit of bias tape. So this is a really quick and easy way to use up extra fabric left over from a quilt. So you have this bias tape here that's left. So what I have now to show you is, this is my long piece of continuous bias tape. And I did the first side of the rolled hem. I actually did it, I cut the ribbon and did the rolled hem all at the same time. So it's a little bit wonky here, but that is how you can quickly and easily do a big long snake of continuous bias tape. So from my 8.5 inch square, I got almost 4 feet of ribbon. So that's pretty decent. So what we're going to do now is we're going to thread up the machine for a rolled hem. and we're going to do a rolled hem on this side, and I'm going to show you how to put beading wire in on that rolled hem so that you can have a moldable or positionable strip of serger ribbon. So this is, if you're taking notes, this is 26 gauge artistic wire. I think I picked it up at Michael's or Joann's or something. So this is not hard to find. So we'll flip the camera now, and we're gonna quickly go over threading the air thread serger. That's what I'm using today. So this is what it looks like on the inside. And so to thread, you need to change the lever to the left, and that's when these channels close. And then you need to move your flywheel so that it locks. And there's actually a little notch here on the side of the wheel right here, and that tells you where to put it so that it locks. So I've got some Janome embroidery thread that I'm going to use in my top looper. It's this really pretty hot pink. And so I'm just going to thread this upper looper. I'm going to use my tweezers. And I'm just going to snip off that edge of that thread. So I use the tweezers, and I'm going to put it down in this port. And then I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail here so that it's got room to thread through. So I want you to be watching right here, and that's where the thread's going to come out. So just like that, I've got my looper threaded. So my bottom looper is already threaded, and I've got some Madeira Aerolock threads in my needle and my lower looper. So now I'm going to switch that back and close the cover. If you look here, I've got it set to tight. That is so that the top thread gets pulled down and under enough to really be hidden from the top, so you get a really nice rolled hem. So the next thing that I'm going to do is, so I'm going to put wire in. So I actually want to lower the knife because I don't want to cut accidentally on the wire. So right down here is the knife adjustment. So I'm going to push that in and turn, and now my knife is down and it's not going to cut anymore. Okay, so we got that. Okay, so the next thing is you get your ribbon, and I'm going to use a piece of Scotch tape, and I'm going to tape, get this wire going here. I'm going to tape my wire to the top of my ribbon. So just like that. So I'm going to tape the top of the ribbon to the wire. What machine? I'm using the AirThread 2000D serger. Okay, so I've got this, and now I'm going to start after the tape because I want to make sure that I can get it positioned where I want it to go. And make sure that the wire is in the right spot. And I'm using the left needle is staying in. So the manual says to take the left needle out and use the right needle, but I like a little bit wider of a rolled hem. So I use the left needle. And then once I've got it where I want it, I'm going to put the foot down. And so you always want to thread your air thread serger with the foot up because that keeps the tension discs open. And then as soon as you put the foot down, the tension discs close and you're good to go. So now we're just going to do a rolled hem, and I'm not going to go super fast because I want to make sure that my ribbon stays in the right spot. So I'm just going to do a rolled hem all the way down. And once you're confident with your wire and its positioning, you can go a little faster. So you're just going to do that rolled hem all the way down. Do I have a piping foot? No, I don't have the piping foot. I'm just using the regular foot, although you could do this with the piping foot if you had one for your serger. And so if you look right here, my wire is out a little bit. So I'm just going to lift the foot and I'm just going to move it over just a little bit and then keep going. So this is a really, really fun way to make coordinating wrap if you've made a quilt. So you wouldn't even need to use wrapping paper. You could just fold it up and have the matching ribbon that you've made. And it also is very eco-friendly because you can reuse the ribbon over and over again, which is nice. So it saves on spending money on things like ribbon that usually just get ripped right off after you give a gift. So I'm just about at the end. So just putting this in here. And when you get to the end, you do want to have a little pair of wire snips handy because you don't want to use fabric scissors for cutting wire. That actually would be an offense punishable by a lot if my husband or my kids used my fabric scissors for something other than fabric. Okay, so we are getting close to the end. We can see the end coming right now. So I'm going to just stop and cut with my little wire snips here. Just cut the thread and then sew down to the end. All right, so we've sewn. So there is our wired ribbon. So I'm going to flip around here so that you can see. So now we've got this big string of wired ribbon. So things that you can do with this is you can tie a bow, you know, with great big long floppy ears. You can tie a bow. You can make like textured bows or like poof flowers. Or I actually remember when my brother got married 25 years ago, we did this for the decorations at the place where the ceremony was to label the family rows. So there's lots and lots of things you can do with your serger, a rolled hem, and some beading wire. So does anybody have any questions? I'm just going to scroll back to see. Oh, I see lots of you have learned how to sew with your grandmothers. That's fantastic. So grandmothers from this generation, it's important to teach your grandkids how to sew because they don't have home ec in school. At least they don't have it anymore here. Oh, you made your own wedding dress? Yeah, my mom made my wedding dress too because she had a serger. So that's all I have for you. It's just quick and easy. It is kind of a mind-blowing thing, right, Kim? Because you never would have thought of using up your scraps. So even, you know, extra jelly roll strips or that fabric that you bought that you don't really like, but you could cover it up with some rolled hemming. And if you wanted a more structured ribbon, you could put wire on both sides. So there's lots of things that you can do with that. So, oh, thank you, Sandra. So yeah, that's what I've got for you. And, oh, they do have home ec, family. Oh, that's a great name for it. Family and Consumer Science. So that's awesome. So I'm going to sign off. Don't forget to visit your Janome dealers. Oh, Roxanne has a question. 2 loopers are threaded and which needle threading? So I use the left needle to do the rolled hem. Yeah, you could definitely use the wire and ruffles if you put the wire in first and then ruffled it with the ruffler, or did the ruffling first and then did a rolled hem on the ruffled edge and put the wire in. You could do that too. 2.5 by 8-inch strips. What do I do with them? Well, Melanie, you could sew them into squares and then cut your squares and do the bias, the continuous bias tape, definitely to use up those extra bits of fabric. So you guys are so welcome. I'm so glad you joined me, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. So stop by if your dealer is open, stop by or give them a call and see what they can do curbside for you, and do lots of sewing. So I'll see you again soon. Bye.